absolutely. Now, you said, at the time you're like, "Oh, wow, I'm vegan."
Right.
That word, and as you're growing up through adulthood, all of that had never sort of heard of the lifestyle, known of the lifestyle at all?
Yeah. Well, I was familiar with the lifestyle because the funny thing is I've always had, extensive knowledge in the health and wellness space.
Okay.
It's just that I'm still a victim of bad eating habits and also a food addiction, right? So
Mm.
you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you have a habit that's hard to kick and you can't kick it, it's harder to get your point across to people. So I knew I couldn't just be preaching to people because I'm a bigger guy,
Right.
so I had to get to a point where I lost the weight and got control over things in my eating habits before I could start kind of sharing my knowledge in the space.
Okay.
But again, like as I, yo-yo dieting and weightlifting and training and, so I always had above average knowledge in this space.
Gotcha. And I believe your journey started 2019?
Yes, 2019. It was about, I believe it was June 14th is when I started. I remember checking my bank statements to see when I started going to tropical smoothies. So
Wow. Wow. So then when did you start? Tell us how you started and when you decided that, you know what, I'm going to share and build your platforms that you now have
right.
wonderful followers on Instagram and TikTok. So when did you say, you know what, I'm going to start to share this and the messages that you wanted to put forth?
Yes, it was about a year into it. When I mean, even within that year, I may have lost a good 60 to 80 pounds. I can't completely remember.
Mhm.
And I was going hard with working out and things like that. So I knew at some point, I'd have to get in front of the camera because it was like it started to feel like my duty now. Like I can't hoard this information any longer, right?
Mhm.
So once I felt as if I was at a comfortable weight to
Mhm.
get on camera and start sharing information. That's kind of when I started. I remember I really started like selling sea moss and things like that.
Okay, yep, heard of
Uh,
the sauce,
yes, yes. So I started doing that at the height of the pandemic. I just knew people were looking to kind of boost their immune systems and things like that. So it was like sea moss, black seed oil. I did some elderberry and things like that. And that
yeah.
was just like me trying to help the people who had supported me. And after that, it just became like a snowball effect. It was like, okay, yeah, I sell this sea moss and things like that, but here are 3 tips on how to whatever. So it just kind of it just started to develop.
Wonderful. Now, what were you seeking as you were doving into this plant-based lifestyle? Obviously, recipes, ingredients, but what else were you just, looking for, discovering in terms of that information that you wanted to share that was supporting your lifestyle?
That's a really good question. I'd say personally, I was looking for a consistency. I was looking for a lifestyle that kind of helped to just eliminate my taste for bad food, which
Okay.
veganism really did help with that. Just eating those whole foods, those plant-based foods, it really helped to kind of just dissipate my desire for fried foods, which is that's my Achilles heel again, right? So
Yeah, when I'm stressed, that's what.
that's right. Give me some fries and
Okay.
things like yeah, nobody's exempt from that. So but other than that, I think I always kind of felt like it was my purpose in a way. I I remember wanting to be like a high school teacher. I really wanted to do that. But I had a daughter, and I was like, I don't think I can really feed her the way that I would like to on that salary. So, I've always kind of bounced around with things that I wanted to do. I always wanted to do something creative as well. But I think it also gives me a sense of fulfillment to just know that I'm making a contribution not only just to society
Mhm.
but to my people as well.
Wonderful. And then and as you're, learning more about this lifestyle, one of the things that, has come up over recent years in terms of Black vegans and our role in this movement, right?
Mhm.
I should say I'm not a vegan, but as Black vegans, the role of the movement, that veganism is not new to Black people. Um,
Exactly.
and unfortunately, it's not when it's talked about a lot of times in the mainstream, Black people aren't part of that conversation. But you've got some really strong people out here that are in this space making it happen. So who was like sort of the first Black vegan that you saw in this space that's like, okay, we are up in here and we are
Right, right. That's another good question. So, and it takes me back. So I've always, even when I could have been, overweight for 5 years, right? But I've always followed fitness influencers, health and wellness influencers, things like that on YouTube. I just always had the desire to get and be healthy, right?
right.
So, as far as vegan influencers, I can remember following Rachel Ama
Okay. Yep.
on YouTube. Yep.
Yep.
She was really good. Just a lot of vegan recipes. It just kind of helped show me like, this is possible.
Right.
Um, and I believe Will Edmond, I
Okay.
believe that's his name. I started following him, and he did something else that I really grew fond of. Is he hikes and he travels and things like that. So I've always wanted to do those things.
Mhm.
So I started to kind of incorporate both, and I'm like, I could do this. I always felt like I could be a host of a show, and like, so it was just a matter of time before I kind of stepped out there myself. But I remember again, Rachel Alma, and I believe his name is Will Edmond. Really cool people, and now a lot of them we follow each other now, and it's just really cool to see things kind of come to this point.
Wonderful. And then how important was it seeing a Black man being a vegan, right?
Yeah.
How important was that and just that representation in that space as well? And now you are among the influencers and they're hopefully influencing others as well.
Yes, indeed. As we know, just representation is extremely important, and
Hmm.
that could be in the field of veganism, and if you're studying to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever it is,
Hmm.
to see yourself in a position that you desire to be in, that's everything. It lets you know subconsciously that I too can achieve this thing.
Absolutely.
So again, seeing them, it was kind of like, it made me start to think like, okay, if I was to do this, how would I do it? What would I bring to the table? What truth would I bring to this space?
Mhm.
And then I started to kind of carve out my own lane, because I knew like, okay, um, I understand what the typical vegan looks like, right? I think we all know it's
Mhm.
usually a smaller white woman who hasn't ever dealt with any weight issues, and that's fine, no judgment. But I knew that I would have a unique voice in the space because, number one, I'm a Black guy, which is probably the least demographic in the vegan space.
Mhm.
So and of course, hence the name Vegan Black Guy. I kept it real simple.
Absolutely.
um, and just knowing those things, knowing that I'm not just that, but I'm from Detroit, a 80% Black city, and I'm gonna bring my truth. I'm gonna cuss a little bit. I'm gonna speak with a little slang and twang in my talk, and I wear my gold. That's what I like, and hey,
Really represented.
yeah, I'm gonna represent. That's that's
Mhm.
it. So I knew I would have a unique voice, and here we are. And I'm glad to have the opportunity and the privilege to help my people.
Wonderful. And it's a good time because as you know, during the unfortunate pandemic, we
Mhm,
did see a rise in those that were pursuing a plant-based lifestyle, whether it was because of the production of meat or not. But
mhm.
we saw that category just definitely rise. But I always say, there's a right way of being a vegan and plant-based, and there's a wrong way, right? Because you can eat French fries all day long, right? And even though those are plant-based, don't mean we should be eating those. So
Yes.
how did you was there a period where you had to learn that it's not just about not eating meat, but it's definitely still looking for the right foods to eat?
Yes. And interestingly enough, that actually came later in my journey.
Okay.
So I've always done well with extremisms, so I can do something cold turkey with sometimes no problem at all.
Mhm.
Where things get tough is like a year into whatever I'm doing, and it's like, Oh, I just hit a bump, or life be lifing, like people say.
Life be life.
Yeah, I'm telling you, right? And things happen, and stressful moments arise, and it's like we reach for that comfort, those French fries, or even remaining vegan, but it could be some Beyond chicken tenders or things like that, and you make a
Sauce,
sandwich with
right?
them. And
It's
yeah,
extra
you're
salty and everything, yep.
yeah, you're right back on the other side of things. So for me, again, I stayed with my sauteed vegetables. I became almost like a chef. Like I was, making lentil burgers, and I'm experimenting, and
Oh,
things were great. But when life happens, as it always will,
mhm,
those stressful moments, I started to reach for those comfort foods, and your diet starts to yo-yo a bit. But I try to vow to never just let go.
right.
As again, somebody who struggles with weight loss and food addiction, I'll probably, there are times I'll gain 20 to 40, 50 pounds at a time, but I understand what the goal is, I understand what the mission is, and I'll always bounce back.
Wow. Now, how receptive is your family? Because there's the holidays coming up.
Right.
And so, there's a vegan Thanksgiving, vegan holidays, or just bring your own dish. And I think the conversation has also been as well, just take
Mhm.
care of yourself. Don't, if, I'll bring what I need for me.
That's right.
And you guys have a good old time and keep doing what you're doing. So how has that worked with family gatherings and things like that?
Yeah, that's it's a struggle in its own right, because so all right, a few things. Like, I come from a smaller family, so we haven't had many gatherings lately,
Hmm.
especially since I became vegan.
Okay.
But I'm also newly married,
Okay.
and married into a large family, and that's a thing. But so, like, the last couple of Thanksgivings, my wife and I, before we were even married, like, we would spend them together. I would make a big set out of get like a the plant, or the field roast, plant based kind of. It's like a turkey kind of roast. I
Hmm.
get that. I make vegan mac and cheese. I make some sweet potatoes and things like that. So I'd make my own vegan Thanksgiving, and of course I'd take it as an opportunity to post on social media, things like that. But it it can be tough,
Hmm.
coming from a lot of the environments that we come from, and just any family, honestly. Bringing your vegan food, everybody's got jokes, everybody has something to say. Yeah, and it is what it is. But honestly, to be completely transparent, like, as a person who again struggles with weight and things like that, I really don't want to talk about what I eat. I don't want to have those conversations. Like, I'm here just like the rest of y'all. I just want to, so at times I find it important for me to just distance myself in certain ways. Like, I may not be able, or I'll probably eat before I come.
Gotcha.
So things like that, because I'm just not comfortable always talking about my eating habits.
Right,
Right.
right.
Mhm.
Okay. Now,
Mhm.
are there some things that from the meat side that you have you gotten over all those cravings? I don't know if you ever can, as if anyone ever will. And I know that there's, the renditions of we have out here in Oakland. She's Don't Be Chicken, and I mean, the chicken is
I
amazing.
really want to try them.
So, I get my little taste of, my fried chicken tenders through her, but has there been a time when you've, backslid, or you really, for the most part, have been on the up and up, and the cravings for the meat has gone away?
So yes, the cravings for the meat haven't really been there for me, honestly.
Okay.
I've never backslidden really as far as being a vegan, but
Okay.
as far as just healthy eating habits, yes.
Okay.
And that happens. It happens sometimes often. Like, I'm coming off of a backslide, right?
Right.
So those things happen, and they happen sometimes often. It just depends on the season of life. Like, I
Mhm.
even I say freely that I fear the winter a lot of times. You can imagine how winter is here in Detroit. So those are times usually it's not much motivation to go outside or go to the gym and things like that, because that 10-15 minute commute is now 30. And it's like, do I really want to do that? And then it's 30 minutes back home, and then you got to work the next day. So it's a lot easier to just stay home. So again, you have to kind of create that environment that's conducive again to the life that you want to live. And that could be buying a few weights, getting a treadmill, things like that to really prepare yourself for what's to come. So